Okay, Street Talk this week. Well, Jeremy, looking forward to this chat about this amazing week of Coronation Street.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
No, it's rubbish.
Come on, get on with it.
Oh, yeah, I know we were starting recording a bit later. I just couldn't
I don't know what
couldn't
you've been
muster the
faffing around
energy.
for nearly an hour.
I don't know what I've been
Get
doing
on with
since
it.
it's finished.
Just fannying about.
I just thought that this week's Coronation Street was flatter than Ted's wreath after getting run over by Eileen in a hearse.
But that was funny.
That's going to be our first story this week, because I think that's certainly the most controversial thing that went on this week, wasn't it? Forget about the drugs and the psychics and the lesbian relationship with goths. It was funeral during COVID times, and people had thoughts about it.
No, it wasn't that they
Comedy
had a
funeral.
Yes.
Comedy funeral. Attempted comedy funeral. Lovely Gay Dead is going to be our top story of the night, but I have all got a subtitle for it for this week, which is a shout out to our Canadian fans, Tim Hortons. We've got a bit more of the size supply storylines later. I was trying to come up with like a story that linked psychics with like size kicks or something, like drugs or sidekicks.
All right, no, it doesn't work.
I don't know.
So you've got to move on.
And then we'll have the petering out story, which I could also call Lucas Liquors and Carla's Knickers.
You mean liqueur, like liqueur?
Liquor, yeah, liquor like booze. Or Carla Connor and the lure of Lucas's Lucre. We've got a bit more of the Geoff free story, and Yasmeen is still not Geoff free at all. Oh my goth, a little bit of the he's new, run, he's new, run. He was snuck into 2 scenes on Monday. And finally, I don't know why we didn't think of this storyline title before.
It's nothing to do with me.
Hallucinating. Although he's more hallucicats this week, isn't he? But never mind.
Sound funny.
Does not. But everything else, obviously hilarious. Gemma, would you like to do Lovely Day Gay?
You could have
Gay Dead.
a cat believe you're hallucinating.
Yeah. We're just delaying the inevitable of talking about this week's Corrie.
I'll talk about this.
Go on then, Gemma. You can be more sensitive than me about these things.
I don't think that sensitive was what they were going for with this.
No, but we need to balance out Coronation Street's complete lack of insensitivity with our...
They had insensitivity in buckets, you're saying.
Oh,
lack
sensitivity.
Yes.
See, I can't even talk.
So one of the main things that people were upset about was the fact that there's a lot of death. There was a lot of death on Coronation Street in recent times, and this funeral comes at a time when we are in a global pandemic. Over 100,000 people have died in the UK, and people are a bit upset. And so having a comedy funeral seems like a bit of a weird, hard sell. I don't know. I didn't find this offensive or upsetting. We've not been recently bereaved.
No, although we did go to a funeral.
We went to a funeral last year. But it's not, it's not, it didn't upset me.
No, normally, and I
wouldn't say, I can understand that some people really did not find this funny, but I will say that there is never a good time to have a comedy funeral story if you're worried about offending people.
I know.
There's always going to be somebody who's watching this who's just literally come back from a funeral.
I think we said on the podcast before that I don't know whether Corrie should shy away from things that might trigger people, because like you said, that people will always be triggered by someone. And I know this is particularly insensitive time. I completely respect and understand that, and know that people would be offended by it, and maybe it wasn't the best move.
But there's also sometimes a bad time.
Yeah, and I too was not in the slightest bit offended with the notion of a comedy funeral.
Yeah,
in fact, when it was coming up, I was thinking, oh, that could be quite good actually, because the last comedy funeral that I remember on Coronation Street, which was Lewis's, I did think was bloody brilliant. But sadly, the main problem I had with this week is that it just wasn't actually that funny. There, it was an attempted comedy funeral, which is maybe worse.
Yeah, number one, you've got to prove yourself correct in thinking that this is going to be funny and everyone's going to like it by actually making it funny. Like, you've got to justify it by actually putting a bit of effort in. And secondly, I think you need to be you need to think about what the focus of your joke is. And it was Gail. It was like the joke's on Gail here, because Eileen's making fun of a light of this funeral because she hates Gail, and that doesn't really work, does it? Because it's making fun of the mourner, and that's really uncomfortable. I know, Gail and Eileen's rivalry is a time-honoured tradition in Coronation Street. I definitely don't want them to ever get rid of that. But, they talk a lot in comedy about whether you're punching up or down. And punching down is not great. And punching up can be funny.
Yeah, you can't get much lower than Gail in the last few years. I mean, the problem is I've not particularly found Gail to be, that sad by this. I mean, Nick and David were pretty much laughing about the fact that Ted was dead a few weeks ago. I've not seen Gail particularly upset about it. The joke
was kind of that Ted was haunting them and Gail was taking it far too seriously. And if Ted hadn't been, if I hadn't thought Ted was going to haunt them, I think that was a bit in bad taste.
But it was
pandemic
haunting Tim, wasn't it?
Yeah, but also the fact that they didn't care what Gail thought, and they, if they had the same things but they were hiding it from Gail and they didn't want Gail to find out, and there was a bit of tension, it would have actually been maybe a bit funny. But because they were basically standing there as Gail's watching them trashing the wreath and like trying to make out that she's just being Mardy for no reason, and gurning about the fact that her dead dad's gonna haunt them in this hearse, just not really. Can you see how the joke, because the object, the punchline of the joke was Gail, the bereaved.
Yeah. And Tim, the imbecile.
I don't know about that.
I'm
just saying to you, but I think this is why it didn't land, and why people who might have given it a pass couldn't really forgive it. Because it was making fun of people in mourning. Inadvertently, because I don't think they really thought about what the focus of the joke was, and they certainly didn't come up with anything that was interesting or hasn't been done many times before. I did think that the Tim thinking that Ted was a ghost thing was really out of character.
That was particularly ridiculous to me.
Right, so
we had. I mean, there's been quite a few, like, we had got Leanne and her psychic contacting the dead there. We had Tim thinking that he was being haunted by Ted this week.
I mean, I don't want to sort of be too po-faced about people's beliefs and stuff, and I'm not going to sit here and say, oh yeah, well, they make fun of people that believe in ghosts and I'm offended, because I don't think I really believe in ghosts and I'm not offended. But, some people do believe in spirits and psychics and things, and I think that Coronation Street has to be a bit careful about what they're saying about these things.
I think I'm going to
say 80% of people think psychics are fake, but there are a percentage of people who do believe they're real, and I think as long as they're not hurting anybody and taking money off of people like the psychic was in Leanne's story, I think you should just let them get on with it, because I don't think it's any different from any other set of beliefs or religion. I think it's, if you boil down everybody's religions into the most basic of beliefs, it's all weird.
I just think that, the worst bit, the bit that didn't land the most for me, was Tim being wound up enough by Steve that he would think that Ted was scratching at the sides of the coffin.
It was also the way that nobody was giving any respect to the fact that this was actually a man's funeral.
See, I didn't particularly mind that, because I think maybe if it had been a beloved character, and it was weird because it was the funeral of a very long-term and beloved character.
I know, but we don't care about Ted.
Not particularly.
We haven't seen him for years.
Exactly.
People watching this show don't even know who Ted is and never seen him before. Listen, what I'm saying to you is there's a way to make a funeral funny that doesn't make people bummed out about them taking the mick out of the dead person and the person who's upset about
I think if you boil it down to it as well, it was really just kind of a vehicle for more Gail and Eileen antagonism, which I think, although I don't want it to go forever, it's feeling a bit tired. That felt a bit like rinse and repeat, and the arguments that they were having
rinse and repeat.
the arguments that they were having in the street, just shouting up, it just felt like
at the end of the week they were just like, it was like somebody wrote the script who hated all the characters and thought they were all stupid. Anyway, right.
It felt to me a bit like you had, Gail and Eileen arguing was like a bulldog barking at one of those derpy chihuahuas in the street.
Why do you say chihuahua like that? You always say it
Chihuahua.
You always say it like
Chihuahua. And
Chihuahua.
I just feel sorry for them having to...
Look,
anyway,
Monday is when
it's not going to get any better than this.
Eileen and George are meeting up in the street, and this was weird. Like Eileen this week, just I don't know what was wrong with her. She's fine with George on Monday, and she's even helping him to organise this because George is like, he's taken over the family business, clearly means a lot to him, but not so much that he's going to get cover for his employee. And can I just point out as well, this is not like a short term, he's out for the day, I need a replacement driver. This is a guy who's got a drink driving.
Yeah.
He literally can't drive ever again. You shouldn't employ him back.
No.
His licence has been suspended. You need somebody full time, mate. Don't just employ a rando from a taxi cab company.
I also want to know, like, how many funerals does he do? How often does he do them?
He's not busy at the moment.
One this week. Yeah.
I mean, look, and also, if we're going to talk about pandemics and people who have been expected to rise to the occasion and work hard against, bad odds, funeral director is probably one of the most forgotten professions in the whole pandemic. They've been working really hard, really unpleasant circumstances, like completely new set of rules, I would imagine, with how to handle the body. You can't really sit with the grieving. You can't touch them. You can't sort of give them a pat on the shoulder. It must be horrible that you're talking to people that haven't seen their relatives because they couldn't go to the hospital sometimes, and so George is kind of the representative of this profession in Coronation Street. I mean, he was just as stupid as everybody else.
I don't think he was.
He got mad about it, but it's like, what did you think was going to happen? He's like, oh, you've ruined my reputation. What, as somebody who can't hire a driver?
I don't think they're making George out to be, as clueless. He
is
seemed
an
to be the
idiot.
most level-headed
He was
out
mad
of the
at
whole
them
lot.
for what they did, but he shouldn't have let them do it in the first place. You could see that Tim and Steve were being idiots.
Yeah.
Right, so Eileen's like, don't worry, Tim's going to drive the car, the hearse, and he's going to look smart, and he's got himself a suit. So she goes to tell Tim he needs to get this suit, and he's like, oh, I didn't realise. And she says, look, I want George to be how impressed so that they'll use us again. Why would this be something that you, what is it called, contracted out?
I don't know.
So Tim's like, oh, you just fancy him. And so they start arguing, Steve and Tim start arguing because they both want to drive the hearse. They both turn up, they both got suits on, they both want to drive the hearse. Steve's completely forgotten he's bereaved.
As has Tim.
Who recently lost his father. More recently than Steve lost his kid. And George is like, oh, well, I guess the only way to do this is to give you both a trial drive. So they go off, Steve and George go off, and Steve was driving too fast, and he was whistling and singing and tapping his fingers, which is inappropriate. But I'm just going to point out, the corpse isn't going to dob on him. If anybody can do inappropriate singing, it's the guy driving the hearse. Nobody else is sitting in there with him.
I think it's, the impression.
Well, yeah, he's going to be at the front of the parade, isn't he?
Yeah.
Procession, it's called, when it's a funeral, not a parade. Funeral parade.
Load of trumpets.
He's in front. You're not watching him. I mean, as long as he's not dapping his head back and forward, like, yeah. With my hair
window
back and
down,
forward.
radio on.
Yeah. Anyway, so his performance subpar, which I'm sure he's heard before. Tim has a go. He wins, and Eileen's like, "You've got to do a good job because I really care about this today, but tomorrow I genuinely won't give a crap." So on Wednesday,
It's the funeral. This was a really nice scene at the beginning of Wednesdays. This was the shining light in this story.
I know,
to
but
me.
this is why it made it worse,
really,
in a way.
It was just a really nice family moment with first Gail and Audrey there, and they got their little wicker coffin in the lounge of number 8, and they're just having some nice kind of bondy times, really. And then David walks in, and he's like looking at his phone and does a double take when he sees the coffin there. He's like, "Oh no, I'm not having this in there." I thought that was
David.
I know exactly. I just thought it was really nice stuff. That was
Well, this is
those
this
three
is like
characters
makes
work
it. This
real
is
together.
why it kind of makes it worse, because Audrey was really upset as well, and everyone's grieving. If it had been the funeral of somebody that everyone hated, or somebody that would have found the whole thing funny, it would have been slightly different. But as far as I remember, Ted was a very nice guy, but I don't think he was a practical joker.
No.
If this was Steve's funeral, it would be hilarious if he ran the wreath over and fired the hearse
I want to
driver.
know where this Andrew was during all of this as well, Ted's partner.
This is the
Why was the
thing.
funeral here and not in London
This
for
is the
one
thing
thing?
that gets
Where
me.
was the bereaved husband or boyfriend or whatever?
Where's his partner and why is it here?
He was mentioned, wasn't he? But I would have thought they might have cast somebody. They didn't
He's
even have
probably
to...
mad about the fact that he's now poor because his partner's left all of his money to his simpering daughter that he's not seen for years. So
He went through most of his life not seeing her. Then he came in for a few years and then he bugged off again. Gail's done quite well with her.
Gail says nothing will spoil the day, and so it's all her fault. Steve comes in and he's making fun of Tim's outfit, and then they start talking about, oh, you're going to drive a wrinkly corpse around.
Isn't it gross?
I didn't like this either, because I thought that was really mean.
Ted was pretty wrinkly, and that was 10 years ago.
I know, but for God's sake, I just thought that was rude. And he said, oh, someone I know who drove a hearse once, and he had knocking on the coffin. You'd have to have a pretty strong knock to be able to make a noise like that coming out of a wicker coffin.
It'd be worse. It'd be like scraping.
Scraping.
Scraping down the sides.
I thought I was reading what you wrote, and I was like, the chickens drive the coffin.
Tim Chicken's out of driving the coffin. He gets in there, he's having a
away.
look. Going, oh, gulp.
Yeah, because Steve's really done a really good job of getting inside his head. And so George says, oh, Tim's he's got dodgy guts, so don't worry, we've got a backup. And she says, I'll drive. And I can't believe that everybody was okay with this and Eileen didn't see the issue and why Gail might not like this. I don't know why Eileen says...
There was no other choice, apparently.
Don't do it, please, thank you very much. George is fine about it. He can't seem to read facial expressions, because if he looked at Gail, he'd see that she wasn't keen on this.
I thought that was... I think it was one of those things that at the end of the day, who else would do it apart from him, which could have just been him to begin with, to be honest.
No, sorry, it's stupid. He should have driven it. You don't employ somebody's arch nemesis who hates them to drive the hearse of their dead father.
It's just a friendly rivalry, it's fine.
So this wreath that had been made has been propped up against the back of the hearse. Eileen, first of all, she drives off really quickly forwards, and then she reverses it and runs over the wreath. She's completely wrecked it. And Gail's very upset.
I did give a little laugh when that happened.
She wants to bury Ted with dignity, and George decides to drive, which could have been the solution at the beginning, couldn't it, George, you simpleton? Tim is still worried about the fact that he's going to be haunted. I just found this weird because his dad was also wrinkly in a coffin.
He didn't go to his funeral either, though, did he?
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And presumably he'll be wrinkly and dead in a coffin if it all goes to plan. Isn't that the goal?
Yeah.
To end up dead and wrinkly.
Wrinkly in a coffin.
Yeah. So Eileen comes to the cafe. She's livid because Steve and Tim have been disrespectful, but I think she's just more mad that George is mad because I don't think she cares. Gail goes to see George and she's moaning that Eileen spoiled the day, and she says, you better leave, you better not go near her again because she's crazy. So in the Rovers later, Steve's like, oh, do you know what, Eileen? It's really great to have a good laugh again, isn't it? I'm glad we had this funeral.
Yes, things have been a bit rubbish since Ollie died a couple of months ago, and Geoff popped his clogs beginning of December. This is the first laugh we've had.
Yeah, it's really nice to lighten the mood with a nice bit of hearse.
Yeah, isn't it nice when somebody else dies for a change that you're not related to?
So she's like, yeah, okay, you've had a rough year. George comes in, absolutely humiliated, and has a go at Eileen and says, I'm done with you. And then she's like, she gets mad and hates him for the rest of the week, which is only one day.
See, the thing that even confused me there is, done with her in what did,
Done with her in what capacity? Professional. I mean, he should have hired her in the first place to be his blimmin', hearse driving
It
consultant.
made it sound like he was dumping her, but they weren't actually going out. Were they?
To be honest, she was clearly acting like she didn't care and like an idiot from the get-go here. She hasn't betrayed his confidence or his trust or anything. She was like acting like a moron the whole time. How can he be so surprised and upset that she turned out to be just as stupid as she was pretending to be? So on Friday, Gail's still miffed, George is still miffed, but she's got a distraction, has our Gail, because she's got Granny Fanny, and she is finding out...
That sounds like some kind of... But that's a diagnosis. Gone to see Dr. Gaddis, I'm afraid you got a case of the Granny Fanny, Gail.
Michael, we agreed that we were above laughing at Fanny. I mean, we're the one that came up with the insert your penis into the Coronation Street quote. Right, so she's...
Well, it's equal opportunities, isn't it? Corrie's inserting fannies all over Coronation Street, and we do it the other one.
She's discovered that Granny Fanny may have had a connection with Churchill. Wow.
Why wasn't that on the front page of the Stone magazines this week?
Yeah. Gail to answer for Churchill's war crimes in India, and a picture of Gail going, "Oh, wasn't me." On Friday, yeah. So Eileen's hungover. I don't know where this came from either. She must have turned to the bottle when she realised that things with George weren't going quite to plan, or she thought it was great and she got drunk with Steve. I don't know. George comes in and they make up after Eileen apologises, and Gail comes in, finds them together and says, "Oh, we're going to the library to look up Fanny." Eileen speaks to Audrey and says, "I'm worried about..."
Yeah, she said, not what my notes say here. She is concerned with...
Who's she concerned about?
Eileen is concerned with Gail's relationship status with George, because she fancies George, and she doesn't like Gail hanging around with him.
But I don't
and possibly
understand again.
getting her man before she gets the chance.
This has no
classic
logic.
Gail and Audrey. Gail and Eileen fighting over the same man.
What was Eileen telling Audrey to be concerned about? What was she saying?
She's saying, "I don't like Gail sniffing about George. I don't know."
I don't remember what. It doesn't make any sense. Why Audrey would have anything to do with this or care what Eileen had to say.
Is it to do with the fact that they're related?
She says, "Sod it."
That's what it sounded like she said.
She walks off saying, "Stop it," but it sounds very much like she's saying, "Sod it, Eileen," which at that point I
think that was just Sue Nichols saying, "I've had it with this script this week. I had 6 months off Coronation Street this year, and this is what they bring me back to. Sod it, I'm going home."
Gail and George come back from the library. They've hit a dead end with their research, but they did find out it was not the same Churchill. You couldn't believe, but there was more than one.
Yes, it was Fred Churchill. Was that right?
I don't know.
I think it was.
What's Churchill's name?
Winston.
That's it. You tell you what though, if she was an heir to the Churchill fortune, that's Blenheim Palace, isn't it? That's where he was raised. That's a bit of a chunk of property to be inheriting. Eileen comes out, and then they just have this vacuous argument about where Eileen is being very, very childish and stupid, and Gail's saying things like, "Oh, you're just like a bad smell, why are you here?" And Eileen's like, "I was doing my shopping," which is like a very good comeback. And then Eileen's like, "Ew, you're cousins, ew, it's incest, yeah, gross, you're gross," basically. Like, that was it. Audrey comes along, and they're all like having a go, and George is trying to tell them to shut up. They're ignoring him. And then eventually he says what nobody could have predicted, and that is that he wants to be friends with both of them. Normally a scene like this would end with him going, "You know what? I'm fed up with a lot of you. I don't care if I never see any of you again." And then they both look at each other and go, "Oh no, what have we done?" And then they have to reunite. They have to unite together to try and win him back and pretend that they'll never argue again.
Yeah, the thing is...
So at least it didn't go down that route. But I don't know why he wants to be friends with these people. They're clearly emotionally unstable. Would you see two women in the street going, "You smell! You're having sex with your cousin," and go, "I'm really lonely"? That's my excuse. I just want a friend.
Yeah, they just had like a chance meeting a few months ago, didn't they? And now they're like his only friends.
Has he not got any other friends?
I don't know.
I feel really sorry for George if this is the best that he can get. He seems like a decent guy.
Mm.
So, let's talk about this.
We've gone over the main points about the funeral, so I don't think there's much more to get out of that. Although I would say something else that somebody pointed out I saw on the internet was this was probably filmed like within weeks of Mark Eden's death as well, which maybe made it even worse for Sue Nichols to have to
Did
to
she
have to go
actually
through.
do this after he had died?
I think
Mark
so.
Eden is her husband.
Yeah. I think so. Well, they're all thereabouts. So that
This
would
is
have
really
made it
that's
worse.
really sad, but you know,
Yeah.
she is a professional.
No,
I don't know. There's not a lot.
there's not much
Oh,
more to say
there
because,
wasn't
like you said,
really-
it was all vacuous.
You were right in that the funeral morning with the scenes with Gail and Audrey were some of the best of the week, because I really like the fact that Audrey's there going, oh, poor Ted, oh, it'll be me next, and Gail's like, yeah, probably. And she's like, oh no, don't say that.
No, that was-
I thought that was really sweet because that is funny. See, that's funny.
Yeah.
Because nobody's the butt of the joke, really, and Audrey didn't take it badly.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Well, it's just
she
not
wasn't
people
being
being
mean.
stupid. Corrie just thinks that they can make people act like idiots. And
Yeah,
then
honestly,
we'll
there was
laugh
like
at it.
mass lobotomies going on. It was like they were giving
Yes.
out COVID jabs and lobotomies
Good
at the
comedy
same time.
is about people being, quick-witted and sharp. And
Coronation Street
you know-
can be really good at witty, sarcastic jokes and banter. And this wasn't banter. This was just like, you could, if you want to hear this kind of thing, I guess maybe people are starved of it because the pubs are closed at the moment. But if you go into town on a Friday or a Saturday night, you can hear arguments very much like this outside of almost any pub. In any city or town centre across the
Yeah.
country, people shouting, "Oh, you smell! Oh, you're friends with your cousin."
And another
I
thing
think
that
it's weird.
although maybe this is just somebody being stupid. Another line that I liked was when George referred to Steve as Lewis Hamilton, and Steve said, "Cheers, mate." But I suppose that is him being stupid
that's a pretty
as well.
low bar for the best comedy line of
Yeah.
Steve and Tim's week.
So
This was really it really felt as though somebody was like, I've written this genius comedy funeral, we have to do it, even though, number one, the timing's really inappropriate, number two, one of our actresses has just lost her husband,
Well,
number
the
three,
thing is, it would have been lost. It would have been
it doesn't
a long time
matter.
before.
Number three, the characters are all bereaved.
Yeah.
But this is so funny, and the lines are so great that we have to put it in. There was nothing redeeming about this that is like, oh yeah, I can see why they put it in, even though it wasn't really the right time.
I think that they're also thinking, oh, we're going to get Gail and Eileen fighting again. The fans love that. Remember that fight that Gail and Eileen had? Do you remember the rest of the village
See,
people
I think
fight?
it's
Everybody
fine.
loves that.
I know, I like them arguing, but this was just made them both look like
I
kids.
just think it was trying to get you to remember
try hard.
times when it was when it worked better. It just
and also,
didn't work.
there's so many things that are puzzling about this. Why is George so intensely worried about his friendship with these Harridans?
Well, does he fancy
also,
either of them?
I don't know.
I'm kind of assuming that George is going to end up with one of them, and surely it's not going to be Gail. I think given the right circumstances, George and Eileen could make quite a good team.
Well,
probably.
I don't think that
I'd put
Gail
them together over
fancies
anywhere
George.
else. No, I don't think she does as well.
I don't think he fancies her.
No.
And
I think
also
maybe he
the
does
fact-
with Eileen, because I think
Yeah.
he was particularly disappointed with how things turned out on Wednesday, because maybe he was holding a bit of a torch for Eileen, and she's let him down. But I think he's going to eventually open back up to her, and by the year's end she'll have got into the Undertaker's underpants.
Look, if you date somebody who runs over a wreath in your hearse when you've asked them to do you a favour, then gets out the car and shouts at you, and then you date them, you're asking for everything you get.
Half the Corrie relationships start with somebody insulting or upsetting somebody.
It's a bit different to splash somebody with your van in
a puddle, isn't it? Yeah.
than running over a wreath in front of a grieving family.
With the Fanny stuff, I'm kind of wondering where that's going as well.
This is
So
what
that
I'm
all seems a
baffled
little
about.
bit pointless as
It's
well.
like they're
Unless there's
going,
going to
"Ooh,
be some
you wait till
real proper major family revelation.
What could there possibly be? The thing
What's
that,
the
thing
benefit
is,
of having them related to each other? Or is it just...
normally it would be, turns out I'm the heir to the funny fortune. But it can't be, because you literally just inherited money.
Yeah.
It can't be that. That would just be weird. So what is it going to be? Like, I don't know. I can't think of anything that I'd really be that interested in.
It might be one of these things that's like, Eileen is related to Elsie Tanner. Isn't that funny, kind of thing? It's just as a little reference.
And then everyone goes,
and everyone goes,
I thought,
but
we already thought this.
I don't. But I mean, George has been brought in as a regular character, so they're obviously not done with him yet. But let's move on. I think enough has been said about this story. It fell flat.
I'm just going to say as well, we moaned a lot about it, and it's difficult. It is difficult to get comedy right. I'm not going to moan at them for that, but I will also say, if you're even offended by the concept, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to enjoy watching many. There's going to be this is going to, if George is in it for the long haul, there will be no end of funny anecdotes about funerals. It's going to be a bit like Blanche when she was going off to funerals because she liked them, and she'd come back and give you her critique of them.
Yeah, you don't bring in an undertaker and then not mention it.
There's going to be mentions of funerals for the duration of his appearance on Coronation Street.
Yeah. Right,
and like I said before, it doesn't offend me at all. I think there can be, you can have a really funny scene at a funeral, but it's because the focus was so much on the person who died, and then also Gail. You can't then switch to we ran his wreath over. Take that, Ted.
Simon, what's he been up to this week? He's pretty narked after what went on last week. And then he goes into work, and Jacob tells him that he's going to sort him out a new phone, which is lovely. Simon kind of picks up the vibes from Jacob that he doesn't quite think he's hard enough, but then he tells him that he used to be in the grey hoodie gang, actually, and he nearly went to prison. So I'm fine. Jacob does look a little bit worried about this fact, and I thought that was probably to do with the fact that if he and the big boss man are planning on using Simon as their undercover sneaky drug smuggler, he can't have anybody that's got a prison record. Or the whole thing with his county lines is that they have these these people that are going to go under the radar, and then when Simon says, "Oh, I just robbed an old lady," Jacob's like, "Oh, that's fine." So he brings in this.
I think he was more like intrigued, like, oh, he's a goon.
No, I don't know. I don't think it was. Anyway, he gets him a new phone, which apparently got 5 stars reviews. We don't know what that phone is. But then Simon is chuffed with this, and Jacob also offers him some drugs to help him relax. So later on, Simon goes home, and Leanne has to quickly turn off her Crystal Webber psychic program when he comes through the door. She spots his phone straight away, and he says, "Oh yeah, I got it for being Employee of the Week," which she fortunately does see right through because she's not that dense. But at the end of the day, he says he doesn't care whether she believes him or not, and he goes off to his bedroom. Wednesday, we had a bit of Toya inserted into the story, which was lovely. She comes over to find Leanne tidying the flat because she's got a special visitor. It's a psychic, not the actual Crystal Webber in person, but one of her helpers maybe. It's somebody who's going to come round later and do a seance reading thing to see if they can contact the spirit of Oliver and find out what's going down with him. So this bloke comes round and he starts doing this, "Oh yeah, Ollie is here, I can feel his presence, oh, he says he loves you and he forgives you and everything." And Toya throughout this whole thing is just looking very, very sceptical. I thought that was quite funny.
I also thought this was another incredible performance from Jane Danson.
Oh yeah,
and
she was
I think a lot of people were more just annoyed at the idea that Coronation Street had a psychic in it again, because this is obviously a very controversial thing, and they were focusing on getting mad about the story, but the actual performance of both Leanne and Toya were both
the look on Leanne's face, just the relief,
the way she cried when he said he forgave her. I thought, I was watching it, and Toya kind of thawed a little bit at this because she could see how happy it was, and it to me, this is another case of it does it matter if it's real? I don't understand if you employ somebody who is a psychic, presumably you're doing it under the understanding that in general people don't think psychics are real, or you believe that they are real, right? So you understand that you either totally believe in it or you understand that you know the jury's out on it, okay? And if you agree to pay somebody for a service under the understanding that they could be lying to you, and then they tell you something that you quite like, I don't see how you can get mad about it, honestly.
I don't
like the idea of
do you
people
think that
taking
Toya was
advantage.
wrong for butting
yeah,
in?
I do.
I
don't think it's right to take advantage of people who are grieving. I just want to make that very clear. I don't necessarily know what I think about, you know, paying somebody for this. I think if you've got the money and you want to, because Leanne doesn't really.
That's the thing.
But if you've got to give somebody the money for this and everybody's fine with it and it gives you peace, I can't see what the difference is between this and like having a funeral service where everyone sings hymns and you have to pay money to the you know what I mean? Like there's always a transaction involved in the process of grieving.
Toya knows that Leanne is going through these financial troubles at the moment, and
I don't think
thinks
she does.
I don't know whether she does, but in any case, she
anybody
doesn't
apart from
like
Simon
to see her sister being fleeced.
I don't think
by
it
this
was that.
person, and I think if she hadn't
that.
nipped it in the buds, Leanne would have been getting this bloke to come round again and again and again.
Probably.
What's Ollie up to today?
Yeah, could possibly.
And so Toya's like, well, no, you know
I...
about the red car because they got the car here. You know about the petting zoo because we've got the photos of Heaton Park here, but it ended to be a petting zoo. So I don't know, what were you going to say?
I don't think she was mad about the money. I think she just didn't like the fact that Leanne was being lied to. And that's and I'm going to say as well, that's a perfectly valid way to react to it.
What?
To be mad and say you're lying. There's no way that you know what. There's no way you're psychic. There's no way you're in touch with the other side. You're lying. I understand, and I totally, sympathise with people who think that. That's totally valid. It's also totally valid to say, yeah, here's 50 quid. Thank you for giving me a psychic reading. I think if you're going to get mad about psychics, you've got to get mad about every religion because it's all belief.
Well, but this guy doesn't end
What's the difference between this guy and Billy with his collection plate at the end of a service going, Jesus loves you, give me £5? I know you because you have your beliefs, you think that one thing is true and the other thing isn't. But from the outside, they're all just made up.
I get that.
So, you've got to be consistent with it. Nobody knows.
No, I know.
And there's a difference between
I think that
tricking somebody and taking advantage of them and do it, because what I thought he was doing was giving her peace. Like if he was saying to her, yes, Ollie's here, he says he can't speak now, but he will come back next week, or
I think with somebody like with Billy or any religious leader like that, they don't believe that they're tricking the people that they're collecting money from. But somebody like this psychic knows that they're just making it up as they go along, and they're purposely being fraudulent about it.
Can I just tell you, there was a psychological experiment. There's a book called You're Not So Smart, and this is what I was talking about. Was it subjective validation? And there was a guy who did cold readings, psychic cold readings. He was a psychologist and he was doing it as an experiment. And he got to the stage at which he was so good at this that he actually started to think that he had psychic powers. So I'm telling you that you can actually convince yourself that you are psychic.
Well, the thing that at the end of this made me think that this guy definitely knows that he's conning them is when he didn't ask for any money. He says, I wouldn't want to take any money from you. I'd never tried to con anyone like this. And for me, that's just him saying, well, I'm not going to take any money now, and then you're going to reflect on that later and think, oh, he didn't take any money.
No,
maybe he is genuine. So let's try him again I think that was just playing the long game. I'm not going to take any money now, but they'll be back on the phone because they'll believe me.
No, I had completely the opposite. I thought it was like, I'm not going to take money off of someone who's upset and thinks I'm not lying.
Well, we will see, won't we? Because I don't know whether he's going to be back again. But at the end
of the day, listen, can I just say, no matter how this story goes, and this is the same for everything on Coronation Street, it doesn't prove or disprove anything about the reality of the situation.
No.
if this guy turns out to be a massive fraud and he was doing it all along on purpose, and he is an evil vampire that wants to steal money off people, it doesn't mean that there can be people who say that they are psychic, believe that they are psychic and empathic, and want to do it to help people, but also need to pay their bills. And I'm not going to criticise them any more than I'm going to criticise a vicar or an imam or anybody else.
Yeah, I
who
just think
believes something that is an established belief system that other human beings also believe in, because I don't know any more than anybody else does what the truth is.
To me, this medium came across as a bit of a shady fella.
But listen, you can lie about being psychic the same as you can lie about Jesus.
But like I said before, Billy doesn't think he's lying, and I think that this psychic knew that he was lying.
I think that you'll find that there's several points Billy had a bit of a crisis of faith.
He has at times. That's very, very true.
So what
maybe
is he then, a fraud?
sometimes this other guy's like, I don't think I can be a psychic anymore.
Oh, what should I do, Jesus?
Anyway,
Jesus like, I don't know, mate.
They send him on his way. And Toya has another little crisis later on about, what shall I do? Because she sees Simon with
one
Jacob.
Thing, can I just say one more thing? Is that if I was Toya, I would probably feel differently about it.
Why?
I'd probably be like, get out of here, you creep.
Toya sees Simon, Jacob, and this other girl. I don't know if we've seen her before, but I don't know what the point of it was. And they've got this massive spliff, and they're in Victoria Gardens, and Kelly's there as well, having a go at them. Toya's standing there going, "Do I intervene here, or do I do the same as when I knew that Ali was on drugs and I didn't say anything about it then?"
Oh, she's like,
everything turned out fine for him, didn't it? I think I'll stay quiet about this one.
This reminds. So this giant jazz cigarette that they had that looked like a trumpet. Do you think this is like when you make counterfeit money for movies and you have to like stamp like this is not real money on it so it doesn't get used?
When you make a little toy gun and you have to put an orange bit on the end.
It's like we have to make this look like comically enormous.
See, I was watching it and I was going, Is that what they're like? I don't know. I've never seen one in real life. Nobody's ever...
No, nobody... We're not cool enough to even be offered.
I literally have had no experience with a joint in real life, so maybe they are that big. And
Did you really think that?
I didn't know,
they
maybe.
Look stupidly huge.
Maybe that's how the kids are doing them these days.
I reckon what happened was the prop department guy was like, I'm going to make this giant doobie. And I'm going to make it really
it's a double-sized doobie.
I'm going to make it massive and as a joke. And then he gave it to them and everyone was like, I'm not going to say that's too big. They'll know that I'm...
Yeah.
Look at this perfectly normal
Oh, wow. How did you make it look so genuine?
Like I don't know. I've never seen one before. This must be what they look like. And the props guy was like, all right. It's not worth my time.
Anyway, it had to be that big so that Toya could see it from across the side of the street.
Toya's standing there the side of the near the what's it called?
Tram stop.
Tram stop, squinting, going, what is that? It's got there.
Why has he got that giant rolled up piece of newspaper?
Looks like has he got a burrito?
Anyway, she doesn't go and tell Leanne this, but she does say that she does go back home and tell her that she saw Simon hanging around Victoria Gardens with some dodgy looking teenagers. But Leanne doesn't really want to hear about that anymore. She's not in any mood to open that particular can of worms. She's just happy to let Simon get on with whatever it is he's doing, which gets worse on Friday because Simon goes out to. Oh no, he's invited to go for a bike ride with Sam, isn't he? There was a bit, was it this week or last week, where Nick was saying to Simon, "Oh, you should hang around with Sam more because you're similar in age." I don't think they really are.
Okay. Yeah, do you remember when you were a kid and like being forced to hang around with other people's children and like even just 1 year's worth of age difference? Yeah. It's like, oh, it's a big kid. I'm scared.
But Simon cannot because he says he has a thing after work. But
no, he says he has a thing for work. I don't know why he didn't just say, I've got work.
No, I thought he said he's got a thing after. I don't know. Anyway, but
it's a lie. Either way.
Outside the chip shop later, Sam comes over with his bike and his helmet, and he harangues Simon until he relents and is like, "Fine, I'll go on a bike ride with you." But he can't because Jacob turns up in his posh car and gets Simon to get in there. They've got a job to do, and Simon's kind of like, "I can't. I'm looking after my kid.
I'm looking after my."
Yeah, what?
Fake mum's boyfriend's estranged son.
Yeah. And Sam's like, it's okay, I'll stay here on my
I
own.
don't
How long
mind.
was Sam hanging on outside the chip shop for? Do you think he was like begging for chips?
Oh, it's probably why he was there. He's like a
Yeah.
little pigeon.
So he gets into the car, zooms off, and then Sam realizes that Simon's forgotten his bag, and I'm getting so fed up of that particular trope rearing its head. People rushing off to places and forgetting things.
Have they tried
They're
looking on the
bloody
top?
always doing that on Coronation Street. It's usually phones, but yeah, I people need to be more careful with their things.
If you've gone somewhere in Coronation Street in a rush and left something behind, check on the top of the bin,
Why?
because it might be on the top of the bin.
Okay. Anyway, so Simon and Jacob they're going to rough this guy up. Is it somebody that's been working for them or something?
I think I recognise him.
He's stolen from them. So
Oh.
so Jacob says to Simon, "We're going to mess him up."
Yeah.
And then he comes walking down the road, and then they give chase.
Well, wait a minute. Look. He's like to say, Simon's like going, "Oh no, I don't sign up for messing people up. I thought we was doing a drugs deal and buying more trumpets that make your head go funny." And like, can I just point out that the utter stupidity of who's it, Jacob?
Yeah.
Taking Simon as his heavy and backup. How much of a wimp is Jacob that he thinks Simon's going to make any real difference
He's
to
well
his
out,
ability
Simon.
to mess somebody up? If I was looking for a goon, I wouldn't say Simon would be my first choice.
But this guy that they were messing up wasn't particularly
Well,
that intimidating either, was he? So then they see this guy jump into their car, give chase. I think that the scenes tonight showed the limitations of some of the outdoor street sets that they have on Coronation Street, because they race past the little arches outside the Rovers, so Sam sees them drive off, and then they end up down the end of Kitchener Street, but I don't think we were supposed to think it was there.
I know they were like driving really fast up and down the road. It's like, oh.
And I quite like that scene actually, where Simon realises he's getting a bit in too deep. When Jacob says to him, "Right, we're going to start a little bonfire here. Go and get the petrol, Simon." And Simon's like, "Bloody hell, are we going to set this guy on fire?" But it just turns out that he was going to make him think that thing, and Simon has to get a bottle of water and chuck it over him. And then once Simon realises he's just scaring this guy, he gets quite into it really.
It was hilarious because like they were like really getting into it and acting like they were being really sinister and scary, but actually all they were doing was slapping on the bonnet.
Oh yeah, but if you're
I
in
think the
there,
guy was scared, but it was like they managed to kind of make it look okay. But if you just stop and think to yourself, I'm just watching two adolescent men slapping a car
no, I think
and
if I'd
pouring
been
water on it.
no, I think if I'd been in that situation, I'd
I
have
didn't
been
say
pretty.
if I was in that situation.
I'd have been a bit scared.
I said when you're watching it.
Maybe. Well, and the person who was watching it turned out to be Sam, because he's chased after them with the bike. And I think as a little, however old he's supposed to be, 10-year-old, seeing these, in his eyes, grown-ups doing this and seeing somebody jump out of a car and running for his life, I think I'm not surprised that Sam was intimidated by it as well, scared, and drove off with it. So Sam's seen this. He rides off. Jacob notices that Sam's got Simon's bag with a couple of bags of his gear in it, which is street talk for drugs.
Hash.
And it was cocaine.
Oh,
it's coke. And Simon says, he said to Simon, "You better go and get this back." So Simon goes round to number 8, where Nick answers the door, and Simon wants to speak to Sam, who is pretending to be asleep on the sofa.
I tell you what, he's doing a really good job because Nick was completely convinced.
And rather than saying, "Sam's got my bag, can I have my bag back, please?" He just goes home.
He goes, "Okay."
I didn't get that.
No,
Why
I
didn't
thought
he
that
ask
was
for his
weird.
bag?
What the hell?
Did he think that Nick was, "I'll give you your bag, but I'm going to root all the way through it first, just to make sure it's definitely yours"? Have you got any proof of this is bag? Can you tell me what's inside, please?
Oh, bags of coke, a cold pizza and some leaflets.
Yeah, it was literally, wasn't it? So he says he's going to come back tomorrow. So he goes back home, sticks on his headphones so he doesn't have to speak to
It's
Leanne.
utterly ridiculous because literally all he has to go is go, "I just was looking for my bag."
He was probably hung up on the coat rack just behind Nick.
What the hell has he done with it?
I don't know. Is he lying on the sofa hugging it or something? I don't know. Anyway, Jacob phones up Simon and gets him to come out on the balcony so he can have a loud telephone conversation for all the street to hear about. You got your bag back? No, I'm gonna get it on Monday. You better get it back or else.
Oh. What are you going to do? Fire me as your goon?
He's going to rough him up. He's going to stick him in a boot and then pour
But
water over it and slap him on it.
It's all front.
I don't know. I think.
What did they do? What did they really do to this kid? They're so well odd. They put him in a boot, went slap, slap, slap. We're going to get you. Slap, slap, slap. Oh, here comes the petrol. Oh, I'm going to set fire to you. Right, go away.
I think that by this point, Simon has heard enough stories about the big boss man to know that, that things could have been a lot more serious, and things could be serious for him if he gets in trouble for this.
Well, it seems like your first offence, you get slapped in a car. I think I could cope with that.
Right. So what I quite enjoyed the drug stuff this week. I honestly didn't mind it. I thought it wasn't the worst part of this week. I enjoyed the fact that the Grey Hoodie Gang got a shout out. That was funny. I enjoyed. I still think that Jacob is quite a decent character, to be honest.
I'm liking him.
The
more
actor
and more.
that plays him, I think he's doing a decent job.
I think that. I think I was very sort of dismissive of him at the beginning. Oh, he's another Corey Rentagoon who's just a boring copycat of all the others.
He's not.
But he's like a proper psychopath, isn't he? Like the actor is really good. Of like his eyes kind of bulge out and he looks really unhinged. He's like, Simon, we're gonna go and mess him up. Yeah, he's quite menacing, isn't he?
He's somebody who flips into that. He can come across as being just normal and nice and chatty and matey,
he does,
but then when
true.
And I think it's because he knows that he's got to, because he knows what the boss is like, and he knows what the consequences could be for him if he doesn't rough this guy up or get the bag back or whatever. So I think I'm enjoying him.
I'm gonna say, at the beginning, I don't know what they do in America or Canada or anywhere else, but in the UK, at the beginning before they show the programme, you'll have what they call continuity announcer will introduce the programme. And today, the person said, this contains scenes of menace and peril.
I thought it was threatened menace today.
Menace. And then he says, Simon, da 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 da, and I couldn't hear because I started laughing because he said threat and menace and then Simon in the same sentence.
But it wasn't Simon doing the threat or menace, and it was. But there's also old what's his name, Kai, in the prison as well. Yeah, he's quite threatening. But
also, sometimes Coronation Street will be introduced with this episode contains scenes that some viewers may find distressing, and we always go, yay!
Yeah,
it's gonna be a good one.
So what's going to happen? Do you think that Sam is going to find the drugs? Do you think he's going to stay quiet about what he saw?
I don't know. You know, sometimes, right, we get to the end of a story and you'll say to me, oh, what do you think is going to happen in this bit? And I genuinely don't know because I'm just have not thought about it because I'm not that interested.
I'm not like mega interested or eager on the edge of my seat to find out what happens next. I'm just kind of postulating.
I'm not criticising it too badly because, like you said, this was one of the most interesting things this week. But I will say, it feels like it can't go anywhere that interesting to me. There's nothing. I don't like these kind of stories. I think they're always kind of predictable.
It just,
it's not really.
I'm kind of looking forward to seeing Simon. Like he's on the brink of, getting into something a lot deeper and darker and tougher for him. And I reckon that Sam's probably going to be very withdrawn. I don't think he is going to say anything.
He might start getting really depressed and weird.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think a kid like Sam, who's very intellectual and emotionally intelligent, I think he would be quite traumatised by seeing that because he's never experienced anything. He must have been quite sheltered. I think Natasha's probably quite a sheltery kind of a protection kind of a mum.
Yeah.
And to see somebody that you had, completely trusted and thought was part of your family doing something like that, you would be traumatised.
Yeah.
I wonder if Nick's going to start to wonder what's wrong with him and he might get very withdrawn. But, my question is, do we really want to see another story where a character's been traumatised by something? Because everyone's traumatised at the moment on Coronation Street and it's getting a bit Samey.
Getting a bit heavy, is it?
Well, I mean, you've got Yasmeen, you've got
Johnny.
You've got Leanne, you've got Johnny.
Yeah, all the drama.
Peter, Carla.
Yeah.
Everyone's a bit bummed out. What we need is a festival or something.
I think that Simon's going to get the bag back. The drugs are going to stay safe for now. I think it's just going to be a little blip. But no, I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. I can imagine the story maybe having a little break for a bit and then coming back and then getting worse or getting deeper or darker or something. I don't know. Yeah, no, that was all right. That story. Do you want to do the anything else to add to that one?
No.
Peter.
Me.
You are doing the Peter story, I'm afraid.
Right. Oh. On Monday.
The problem with this, I was much more invested in the Peter story when it was to do with his alcoholism and his seizures and his having to dose up on the little bit of booze and all that. On the next drink he could die. And now it's just gone back to the tried and tested relationship drama and who fancies who and people getting the wrong ideas about things. And
this is the trouble. Almost always when you're doing a relationship drama and you've got to write 6 episodes a week about people having relationship dramas and you've been doing it for 60 years, you get a bit stale and you get to the bit where you're just like, and then he overheard something, then she tried to explain it and he wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
And that's basically all that happened.
He overheard something and he went off before he heard the rest of the conversation where she explained herself a bit better.
And despite the fact that this couple are supposedly soulmates and have gone through the crap for each other and been there through thick and thin, almost every time they go through thick and thin, they have a bloody argument and a misunderstanding and then get back together again. You'd think they'd give each other the benefit of the doubt at this point, wouldn't you? But no. So on Monday, this guy Lucas, who's the one that he tried to make Carla run away with him and she refused, turns up at the factory and he's like, I've got an idea for knickers. Have you heard of these ones that have got a hole in the crotch?
He does not say that. He wants
and
to
Carla's
collaborate
like,
with
yep. Also, we do edible ones as well, but they're just made out of those funny little elastic sweets that kiddies have that have like the watch face. So I find it quite uncomfortable actually that you would make edible knickers out of children's
crotch
sweets.
on your watch.
Crotch.
No, watch on your crotch.
What time is it? Time was on love. So anyway, Sarah's like, yeah, great idea. Let's do a pitch to the boss, and he says, oh, no, Sarah, sorry, it can't be you. I said Carla would do it. And I said she was great. And he thinks you're crap, is the insinuation.
Where
there.
Would he get that idea from?
I know. And she's like, well, actually, I think you'll find that like I am actually the best one. And it's actually my factory. So I'll just let Carla do it because I'm delegating. Sarah's like, so what's this about Lucas? And she says, oh no, he's not an ex. I don't care. I'll do the pitch. I don't mind. So she goes to see Peter and says, I'm going to Harrogate to do a pitch. And he says, what, with Lucas, who's your ex? You've written from Cornwall, but it was Devon, Michael. I can't believe you would make such a mistake.
Maybe that's what Peter said. Devonish.
It is. Maybe he did say Cornish because he was being rude. How dare he? It's like calling somebody from Manchester a Yorkshireman.
Yeah.
So he says, actually, he's not my ex, but I need to go. And he says, go on then. If you'd rather do that, I think.
He does. He said, bugger off then. If you don't want to stay here and help me with my jigsaw, you got a meeting in Harrogate you need to go to. There was a really nice post that Ryan put on the Coronation Street blog this week about the analogy and the similarities and with Peter's jigsaw and saying, he's trying to piece his life back together in the same way he's piecing his jigsaw together.
Good analysis.
That was quite nice.
And his blanket is like the embrace of familial warmth.
Yeah.
But someone needs to get him a slanket because it's slightly more easy to do a jigsaw in it. So Lucas says, oh, I don't want things to be awkward. And she's like, no, but it is. Ken says to Peter, you got to stop moaning at Carla all the time. And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess I screwed up. And Ken says, yeah, well, stop sitting there sulking with your jigsaw. So Carla's like trying to sort this pitch out. And they're like having these weird things like you can't start a sentence with so.
She didn't like that.
No, she hates it. And Peter comes in and so Lucas and Carla are talking, and then the conversation turns to Lucas saying, how could you be happy with your alcoholic boyfriend? And don't you think that if you could have chosen a life for yourself, you wouldn't have picked this? And Peter's standing there, like, with this giant box of red roses, going, oh, wonder what she'll say. And Carla says, yeah, well, maybe I wouldn't have picked this. And he goes, oh, she's mean. And walks off. And then Carla goes, and I will continue my sentence. I just had a little dramatic pause then because I thought I was going to do a bit of sick. To continue, Peter is my soulmate. And when it works, it works. And I'd never give up on him. And I love him. Even if he threw roses in the bin, which is quite coincidental because that is exactly what Peter's doing at that moment. He's been in the roses and being a big old emo about it. Carla goes to number 1. Peter's all like moody and weird and passive aggressive and insults her, and she just leaves. Well, she goes around to see Jenny and she's crying, and Jenny says, oh, would you like a comedy scene with me and Daisy and some wine? And she says, oh, yeah, that sounds great.
It is a brilliant comedy moment of the week.
Actually,
Daisy trying to pretend to be Carla on the phone. This is the best thing that Daisy's done since her first episode.
Yes, you're right. There were a couple of really good highlights this week. The beginning of the funeral scene on Wednesday was very good. The Leanne with the psychic and Toya scene was really good. And the
anything
drunk...
Dev does.
Oh, yeah.
He can do no wrong.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe this wasn't such a crapshoot.
No, it was.
So anyway, they decide to have a good old drunk sesh with each other, and Sarah's got to go to Harrogate. So Jenny gets on the phone to Johnny, and Daisy's just there being Daisy. And
you should dump him.
Oh, get rid of all your men, they're rubbish. Oh. And they all get completely drunk. And then they're all moaning. And then Peter starts to call Carla. And Carla's like, oh, I can't trust him. I'm really drunk. Someone's else got it. I just but not answer the phone. Oh, but I can't because he's really upset. And I can't go back because now I'm drunk. And so Jenny says, why don't you just stay over here? And then...
She brings her out Rita's nightie, doesn't she?
Yeah. So they ignore the phone call. And then... it's a Winceyette night dress. And then she's like, Rita left it here. And Carla's like laughing. It's like, Rita wouldn't want you to wear that, Carla. You should be honoured to wear her Grundies.
Yeah.
Peter starts ringing again, and Jenny says, oh, don't worry about it. She'll leave a message. And Daisy says, oh, I'll just do an impression of you. Don't worry, I'll answer your phone. Picks it up, answers it. She's like, hello, Peter. She does a really good impression of Carla, and then she panics and throws the phone at Carla.
No, I don't think that she does say that to Peter. I think that was her pretend. That is what I would say.
Okay, well, she answers the phone and throws it at Carla, and she's like, oh my God. And so she answers the phone, she's like, oh, Peter, how are you? I'm in a hotel by myself for sure. And Peter's like, this is suspicious.
Well, he is, because he's found out from Adam that Sarah's the one that's gone to Harrogate and not Carla.
Yes.
So he reckons
well, he knows she's not there.
He's there. She's there with old lovely Lucas.
Yeah, she's gone somewhere else, presumably. Not Harrogate, because that would be a kind of silly thing to do, wouldn't it?
Yes.
So, on Wednesday, she's hungover. She comes down and Jenny's like...
She's doing her Pilates, isn't she, Jenny?
Yeah, she is. And she said, and she reminds Carla, and Carla's like, oh my God, I've answered the phone, didn't I? Oh no, how am I going to lie to Peter? And so Peter, meanwhile, is telling Steve that Carla's been lying to him, and he thinks that she was with Lucas. He confronts her, and she says, I was with Jenny. I wasn't with anybody else. And Peter goes, really? Because I heard what you said to Lucas yesterday about how you wouldn't pick me if you had a choice. And Carla says, look, you can't deny we've been through a lot together, but I really love you, and I'm not going to call it a day on the relationship.
Yeah, and then she
also... she's like, oh, it's all my fault.
Yeah, she starts, yeah.
Oh, for God's
self-pity.
sake.
I'm so toxic.
It's like both of them, one of them will be like, oh, I hate you, and the other one will be like, I know, I'm useless. And then they'll make up, and then the other one will say, oh, I hate you, and they'll be like, yes, I know, I'm useless. Like, they're both equally pathetic, aren't they? They take it in turns to be sad about how useless they are.
Yeah, pitiful it is.
It is pitiful. And Lucas turns up, and Peter's like, oh, him again? Oh, I'm going. Oh, bye, Cornwall. And he's like, rude. Which way do you buy your scones? Where does the jam go? Where does the jam go? Lucas tells Carla oh, guess what? It went really well. We're going to sell those crotchless edible panties that we were talking about. Would you like a coffee to celebrate? And she says, no, thank you. You've ruined my life because Peter heard us talking yesterday and all the stupid questions that you were asking me. Really inappropriate in a business meeting, actually. Do you know what? I shouldn't have even answered the question because we were supposed to be boning up for a meeting, not boning each other. And Lucas is like, oh, well, sounds like it's a bit of a crap relationship, really. Why don't you come and have a chat with me whenever you like? Because I know lots of things about crap relationships. And she's like, great, thanks.
And that was the end of that.
Put it in my
Fortunately,
diary.
we didn't get any of that on Friday because I found that very boring this week. Although I was kind of glad to see Lucas again because when he was in it before, I thought he was quite a decent character. I thought the actor was, I know, fairly charming.
Yeah.
Which that's the point, isn't it? He's supposed to be this
Tempting
temptation
guy
for
who's
Carla.
actually got... Listen,
Somebody
the thing
who
about
sorted
it
his
is,
life out.
Lucas obviously likes Carla because she's good looking lass, right? And she's gullible because she keeps falling for Peter's nonsense. So he thinks he can get a few good shags out of her, probably. But the drama involved in being Carla's boyfriend is not worth anything.
No.
So he should run away as fast as he possibly can. She's a maniac.
I think Lucas could get whatever woman he wanted if he set his eye on somebody. I don't think it's worth it with Carla, but did you think he's supposed to be like, is he going to be a villain in this piece, or is he just like...
Oh, he's such an evil villain coming and telling Carla and
The greener
Peter that
grass
their
guy.
relationship seems to be quite unhealthy.
I don't know. Yeah, so I'm kind of glad that he's back, but it does feed into the relationship side of this story, which, as I say, is not as interesting as the alcohol one, but it seems like maybe that's over now. He's on his road to recovery.
Do you not think that there's
it
still...
could always
no.
take another
No,
turn
because
for the worse.
he's gonna have a liver transplant.
Oh, yeah.
Is he gonna have another deathbed wedding at the hospital?
I don't know.
They'll be like, yes, please, come into the Peter Barlow Memorial Room, wedding room, for terminally ill patients.
Yeah.
You've been here before, haven't you? Have you got your loyalty card? If you get 3 stamps, you get a free wedding.
Here's a
Just saying.
little theory. Is Jenny going to end up going after Lucas? Because Daisy's still trying to drive this wedge between her and Johnny, isn't she? And maybe if Lucas is being rebuffed by Carla, maybe he could move on to the next most eligible bachelorette in the street. Not Gail, not Eileen, but Jennifer Connor. Maybe.
I mean, she
Maybe.
does Pilates.
Yeah, I don't know. You were when we were watching this on Monday, you were not particularly complimentary towards
What did I
Peter, were
say?
you? You were just saying he was feeling too sorry for himself and he needs to buck his ideas up.
Was I?
Yeah, you were like really mad at him.
Was I?
Yeah, do you not remember?
No, I have no memory of it.
Yeah, you were calling him all sorts on Monday. Have you cooled
I
off
think he
now?
was just being pathetic, though, wasn't he? Like, yeah, I'm really sad. Oh, Jigsaw.
Yeah.
Like, I know Jigsaws make you sad. Do something different. Get a PlayStation.
I also thought that he probably should have realised that maybe this exact life path that Carla has gone down isn't necessarily exactly the way she would have planned it had she had the chance.
When you're a little kid, if somebody said to you, do you want to be an astronaut or do you want to date an alcoholic? You would go, astronaut. I don't care if I die on Mars. I'd rather do that. Also, I don't see how anybody with any sort of self-reflection can sit there, hunched under a blanket on a Monday afternoon, doing a jigsaw puzzle in your dad's house at the age of whatever he is, 40 whatever,
higher than that.
whatever he is, going, why doesn't she like me? What's wrong with me? Why is she picking Lucas?
Yeah. Right, next
I don't know,
story.
Peter.
Next
Maybe
story.
she hates you as much as you hate yourself.
What's Yasmeen
It's
been getting
certainly
up
nothing
to?
attractive about a self-loathing alcoholic.
So, on Monday, Yasmeen has volunteered to do front of house at Speeddale today. Since Geoff popped his clog, she's been just there in the kitchen cooking up all the curries, and now she's decided she's going to face the customers. But of course, the first customer that comes in, maybe, or at
Literally
least
the
the first one that we see her interact with, puts a bit of a spanner in the works by wanting to know if that magic bloke is here, because this guy hasn't been looking at the local news or anything at all, and hasn't realised that Geoff is no longer with us, and this puts Yasmeen back somewhat. He's very insistent. He said, I promised that I'd get Geoff to do magic at my daughter's communion. No, my good
I'm
sneeze.
so sorry.
He's supposed to be doing magic at a daughter's Holy Communion. I don't know whether this is the turning the water into wine trick or something. But Yasmeen is like, oh, not Geoff, you've reminded me of him. And she knocks over a mug of water and scarpers. So Alia and Elaine...
Can I just say, obviously, this guy doesn't get any news whatsoever, because if he did, he'd get the news that Geoff is actually a subpar magician who can't even do a magic trick because Yasmeen ruined it.
I know. Oh, well.
What, he's not called Jiglet Geoff because he's really good at magic, is he? So no wonder he didn't hear he was dead.
Yasmeen gets chased home by Elaine and Alia, who are fairly sympathetic towards her, and she's starting to wonder whether she's ever going to be able to serve again. And they said, well, what we need to do is the Geoff speed dial. And Yasmeen thinks this is a wonderful idea. So they're going to go back, they'll go through all the changes that he made and wash that man right out of their hair. So Alia is going to make her list of all the things that they can do. She goes to the little understairs nook to find a pen, but what does she discover there? A load of file demand envelopes, all these little bills that Yasmeen's been hoarding. Alia finds, and Yasmeen's like, oh yeah, sorry about that. I didn't want you to find these.
Oh, I just put them on the top of the bin.
And the big frustration here is, of course, that they're Geoff's bills and not hers.
But they are in her name.
Yes. And Elaine says, oh, I was also left in debt when Geoff let me. It took me years to recover it.
Thanks
Elaine.
Thanks
for that, Elaine. But I'm sure it's going to be better for you now. I'm sure it's going to be better for you now, because when you see the adverts with all people going to banks and everything, the bank managers are always such friendly chats. Maybe we should go and see one and see if we can sort this out. But not before Alia goes to see Imran first and says, look, can we get some, pass the court records to the bank and prove that Yasmeen was in a coercive control relationship?
I loved this scene. This was the funniest scene.
Why?
Inadvertently funny, because
Imran's
like, I don't think it's going to work because she took the loans out in her name, and also don't want to be too rude, but you guys haven't paid me yet either. It's like, Imran, what? Are you that desperate for cash? I can't believe you are.
Imran's like, sorry, 60th anniversary week, many people said that I was character of the week that week. No one was talking about the Ray with his bulldozer. Nobody was talking about Geoff falling about the roof. They were talking about that amazing defence I gave of Yasmeen. So yes, I will get paid for that, thank you very much.
I sat there and looked at CCTV footage of all of the car parks when there's a 30-minute walk radius of that goddamn hospital, and I'm going to get paid for that, and it's going to be £6,000, Alia, and I will take cash only from you, no cheques.
I'd kind of forgotten about that. I wondered whether he was doing it as a favour, but it's not. I think it's not his business, is it? It's Adam's business.
Well, it's also like, the thing is, on Coronation Street, both Adam and Imran only really ever do work that's related to their friends and family, and if they just did mates race the whole time, maybe that's why Toya and Imran are living in that rubbish little flat.
Yeah, probably.
Like, she comes home and she's like, oh, another big case today, honey, and he's like, no.
Yeah, although I'm looking at Simon, he's smoking drugs outside Victoria Gardens, so I'm hoping I might be able to defend him soon.
And Imran's like, Toya's like, I think he was playing a trumpet, I think they were doing band practice.
Anyway, it turns out, we find out that Yasmeen owes £29,000 plus £6,000 legal bills from Imran, and so it's looking a bit like a difficult situation for them. So they're going to have to hope that the bank takes pity.
I thought you were going to say IOUs.
Wednesday, Alia starts the episode organising the bills. Then she floats the idea to Yasmeen that maybe she should sell the community centre.
Another person on Coronation Street who inexplicably owns the property of the business that they run.
Everybody is a business owner and homeowner, and they're all, that's why I say they're all middle class these days. Anyway, this idea does not go down well with Yasmeen because the community centre is so important to her. I mean, she hasn't stepped foot in it for the best part of a year. But
it's a massive money spinner as well these days. Everybody's clamouring to get into the community centre.
The problem is, Speed Dial has made the community centre redundant because they just push the chairs back and put all the mums and bums and tums classes
Mums
in
and
there,
bums
don't
and
they? Literally,
Yeah, they
the
do.
community centre is a tiny little nook shop.
Just sell it. Just rent it out as a factory. This is the other thing that gets me, is that they always have a conversation about selling their assets, and they never talk about the fact that these are generating money. All of these businesses they talk about selling, not only do they own the actual property, but they own the business that is running out of it and surely generates money. And as soon as you sell that property and the business, you have cut off your supply of income.
Yeah, your revenue, yeah.
So how does it make sense to sell a property? And the other thing as well, I just point out, why on earth does she not, if it's £29,000 and she owns her own house, and we'll get to that in a minute. She owns two businesses. She owns the community centre, which apparently is a business, and Speed Dial, and two properties. She owns the community centre itself and her house. She can't remortgage and get 29 grand out of her mortgage, and she must be near the end of her mortgage. My God, if she's not, she wants to crack on the head.
I guess she just wants, money fast. And by selling the community centre...
There's literally... It doesn't make any sense to me. There's no way that you would go to a bank and say, look, I've taken out a bunch of loans. I shouldn't have done it. Can I consolidate them all and take it out of my mortgage? There's no way that somebody with this many assets...
They'd turn down.
I just think it's silly. It's a very silly, problematic story because it doesn't make any logical sense.
I don't understand about things
Why
like that.
would you sell as well? Why, if you've got your lovely house and you've got your community centre that's earning money and your business, why would you sell the business and not your house? Sell the house again, get the money out of the mortgage, pay it back on the mortgage. Isn't that what a logical person would do instead of selling the thing that's earning them money?
I guess Alia is just literally saying you don't need the community centre. Maybe she thinks that Yasmeen...
I think Alia was being really cruel to Yasmeen, and she wasn't listening at all to what Yasmeen was saying at all.
She wasn't. Yasmeen was quite insistent this week that she didn't want to let go of the community centre.
Yeah, she's like, no, I'm not selling it.
By the end of Friday's episode, not only was it on the market, but it also had some interest in it. So it could be sold by Monday.
Alia was like, oh yeah, grand, whatever. I've phoned the estate agent. Like, calm down, it's not even yours to sell.
I think
this. Do you not think this is another example, almost, of her pushing Yasmeen into the same situation she was in with Geoff?
Yeah, which is what Yasmeen said. I think that was the whole idea behind this.
Billy and me. I don't know how much money Alia has, but I kind of think she's got money, hasn't she? Both her parents are dead. She must have inherited some money.
Oh yeah, she would have done.
She's a professional woman. She works. She owns her business. Can't she give Yasmeen some money? Can't she say, Yasmeen, I'll buy half the house?
I don't.
That's what my friend did with her dad when they got hit. Their parents split up, and her dad couldn't afford to stay in the house. So my friend paid half the mortgage and had like a contract to own part of the property when it was sold.
Well, maybe that's what they'll do.
Ollie's like, I'm not going to give you any money, Gran. I'm just waiting for you to die so I can cut this in half and share it with Zidane. In fact, you know what? I might not even tell him.
Well, she does have a backup plan at least, which is selling some of those. She's got a jewellery box, hasn't she, with some jewellery from Sharif and some of Cal's war medals. But sadly, Geoff has already got to them first. We find out that was sad, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and then the bailiffs show up, and they were kind of nice bailiffs. What you should look
for is a stamp collection.
Oh yeah, they were kind of nice bailiffs, and they understood Yasmeen's predicament, but it didn't stop them going to, going up and making a list. And
I'm going to say something here.
What?
Sorry. The way the bailiffs were written was, like you say, very sympathetic towards bailiffs. And the way they spoke and what they did made me think that whoever wrote this actually researched what a bailiff does.
He doesn't just go in there and says,
listen here, love, we've got...
just going to take that TV.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of expecting them to do. It would be really lovely if they could extend this courtesy to other professions like teaching that they think they know about but don't ever do any research on and just make up crap to make people look bad.
Yeah.
Look what happens when you actually research what actually really happens.
So
they come in and they say, look,
I wonder now how much Geoff's stuff is worth. All of his magic gear.
I can't believe that magic stuff isn't worth a fortune.
Yeah,
they should have marched
it's magic.
them straight up. Exactly. Look, this is a wand that makes a rabbit come out of a hat. Infinite rabbits. Even if you sell them for £1 each.
Yeah, exactly.
So
rolling.
That's infinite pounds, isn't it? Do the maths. So anyway, listen. Why didn't they just march them up to this room and go, take what you want? Take anything out of it, you can take it now. Because they came in and they said, we've been sent here to recover money that you owe. What we're going to do is we're going to make a list of stuff that we could sell. And then if you don't repay what you're owed, we'll come back and get it.
Yeah.
So they were, they didn't just turn up and take everything out.
No. They just want to find out what's there just in case.
Yeah, but I thought they were being very reasonable, and I also don't understand why they didn't just say... Because, like, some of those... To buy a magic trick, you have to pay a lot of money.
Well, there was the... There's all those dolls as well, aren't they?
Oh,
they look like
dolls.
Proper...
Put it on eBay, haunted doll.
Ali and
Yasmeen
go to the bank later, and the manager is not very nice. He's not like the bank manager on TV. He doesn't care. He says that when you signed this loan agreement, you were in sound mind. Sorry, I'm not going to wipe it off.
He was sympathetic,
Deal with it.
But he was like saying, what can I do?
He turns into Geoff. That's what he can do, doesn't he?
Yeah. Oh, it's
Yasmeen
me.
sees Geoff. He's back again.
I sold all your medals. Ha ha ha.
And then they go home, and Yasmeen is still saying, "I'm not."
Well, she
I'm
starts
not selling.
freaking out, doesn't she?
She does. She says, "I'm not selling Jamila House earlier," but she is upset that she will never be rid of Geoff. Friday, Ryan's bored, so Alia says, "Let's go out to dinner tonight," and he's like, "We're not going to Speed Dial though." And that's still there.
And Alia's like...
That's the only place on the street to eat at the moment.
Alia's like, I literally have no healthy relationships where I listen to what the other person says, so we're going to Speed Dial. Is that what you just said?
And an estate agent comes around to have a look at Speed Dial, to look at the community centre, and Yasmeen doesn't want anything to do with it.
Wasn't Ryan pathetic today?
Do you think?
It was like, oh, I'm so bored and I'm fed up. And it's like, I don't know, get a job.
Well, you know what? He was getting looked at. He was having an interest shown in him by Daisy the other week, wasn't she? So maybe he's gonna blow this for a game of soldiers.
Yeah.
And going off with Daisy Midley.
I'm just going on eBay here and I'm looking at magic tricks.
Yeah.
And there's like, the cup games.
Yeah.
You can sell. There's £28 here for a vintage Magician's aluminium cup and balls magic trick.
How much for a magic box?
International Magic Watch Box, £16.55. It's got 6 bids and it's still got 2 days left.
There you go. It all adds up, doesn't it? Elaine. I've written Eileen here. She tells Tim about the community centre sale, and they're kind of worried about Yasmeen's state of mind. And then she decides to make things up to Yasmeen by buying her a chicken, which Yasmeen is not impressed by because she's not ready for a third one yet. She's kind of got used to having 2. So Elaine goes back home and thinks that she's made everything worse. She was just trying to make things better. And then they'll go to Speed Dial. Elaine says sorry. And Yasmeen, this is where I felt really sorry for her. She starts to get upset because she realises that they've changed the menus without her say so, and she's like,
being a prick.
And she's saying, "Oh, you're worse than Geoff. You're just as bad as Geoff. He
Yeah,
stopped me
she's
doing
totally
whatever I
right.
wanted, and you're mollycoddling me, and doing things behind my back."
Patronising her.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd be furious. I'd kick her out. She's like, "Oh, Gran, we had a meeting, and I thought that was enough for you. So what I did was change everything." Thanks, Alia. Nobody asked you. It's not your business.
And then we also find out in this end of the episode that Tim has been left everything in Geoff's will. I don't know why it's taken so long to find this out, but never mind.
I don't think anyone was asking, were they? Because they just assumed that it was.
So Tim now owns half of number 6 and a quarter of Speed Dial.
Oops.
So what's that going to mean then? Any?
If
Is this going to be a solution to all of Yasmeen's problems? I don't know.
How can this be a solution?
He can say,
Are you joking?
"You can have this."
Are you joking?
I'll
You're being stupid.
Oh, go on, then you tell me.
She presumes that she owns all of this. The presumption is that Geoff didn't make a will, or if he did, he left everything to Yasmeen. And so everything that she owns is hers.
Mm.
Geoff didn't actually own any of these things, did he? He married her and then he got half of everything because of the customs of marriage. So now she's facing debts and she only has half the assets she thought she did, and you're going, well, this seems like a good solution.
All right then.
You're mental. I can't see how, if Tim is any kind of a man, I can't see how this goes anything other than Monday morning, Tim going, sorry, Yasmeen, Geoff left everything to me, but don't worry, I'm not going to have it. I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I hope so.
I can't see how you can be forced to take things against your will. I don't know how this works. I presume there will be some kind of fee involved in him giving it back to her, which is going to mess her up. But, you know, if Tim turns around and goes, well, it's half my house, get out.
Yeah.
He's an arsehole. But I don't think he's going to do that. I just can't. This is just a
Tim
weird.
we're talking
This
about
just
here.
seems like this would be like I would feel more like, oh, this is a dilemma if it was anybody but Tim. You know, if it was somebody who didn't know Yasmeen at all, who would turn up and go, oh, sorry, no, this is my Uncle Geoff who left me this in the will. Of course I'm going to have half the house. Why wouldn't I? I'm perfectly entitled. And you would go, yeah, I guess, you know, if you get left inheritance and you pitch up and they're like, oh, I can't, I've got to sell my chickens. I took out a loan. You'd be like, that's sad, but where's my cash?
I guess
Whereas Tim's like, yeah, I'm not going to.
I guess I wasn't thinking about it too deeply because I was not that excited by this story, I have to say. I have enjoyed the Yasmeen story, but this feels like it's just going on a bit, and the fact that it's turned into another I don't have any money story, which you know,
we all know that
ten
story.
a penny in Coronation Street. It's like,
can I also say that I predicted that Tim would be left. No, I predicted that Geoff's girlfriend would be left the money.
oh
And that would actually be more interesting to me because she would probably want to take it.
yes, oh well. Speaking of
Do
Geoff,
you feel there's any danger of Tim demanding? And if he
he
does,
really shouldn't do.
But if he does, all I can see is like 2 weeks of scenes of everyone going, Tim, you're so mean, and Tim going, oh, it's not my
But he
fault.
wanted me to have it.
Oh, it's my dad not done anything good for me my whole life, and now he's left me this, so it's great. I can buy Tiny a new stool, and Tim and Sally going, Tim, I can't believe you do something like this, and then eventually him going, yeah, I guess so. I'll give it back.
I'm not interested.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I'm not interested in this. I'm sad that the prospect of the community centre possibly being sold
they just
now,
gonna
it
be
feels
like
it's a done deal.
Is it
but
just the writers going, we can't think of anything exciting? We've been trying for years to make this exciting, and all we come up with Father Christmas.
the community centre hasn't really served
It's got so much
a
potential.
purpose for a little while now, but I definitely think that speed dial has meant that they don't need it. They just have classes in speed dial. It's a bigger space.
Do you not think it's also a bit stupid to have two businesses that do completely different things and then take one business and encroach on the other one's stuff?
Well, I think speed dial at a time was
Like
doing
they're
it because
poaching business off themselves.
well,
I know
speed
they
dial
did
was
it
being
because
used
there
with
was
the
a factory, but there isn't one there now, is there?
No.
Who's running this business?
I don't know. Geoff coming into it this week.
You've written, what difference could Tim owning half of number 6 make?
Yes, well, we've
What
talked
possible
about
thing
that now.
how could that affect
We've
anything?
talked about that now. What did you think
Is
of
it
Geoff
because
being
you-
back in it?
It's because we both own half of everything, but you secretly think it's all yours, so you don't
Yeah,
get it.
definitely. I'll tell you what I thought of Geoff being in it. Why did they bloody spoil it? Again, what is going on with the Coronation Street publicity and choosing what they will and won't tease us with before an episode? And it's not, I don't go looking for spoilers, but if I'm just having to browse through Twitter and they put out a tweet saying, Geoff's going to be in it tonight, and thank you, Coronation Street, I didn't want to know that.
Genuinely, the only reason to have Geoff in it is to shock and surprise you.
Yeah.
And if you tell people before you're going to do it, you're going to surprise them, it's never surprising, is it?
I mean, it's not as surprising as it once was. When he
Exactly.
turned up on Christmas Day,
It's diminishing-
that was great. I did not expect to see Geoff on Christmas Day,
No.
and all the stuff with all the red crosses around the kitchen was brilliant. And then he comes back again on the day of his funeral. I was like, oh yeah, okay, it's Geoff again. I wonder if she's going to start seeing him again. And then on Wednesday, I was like, I think
just
even
said-
if I hadn't seen that spoiler, I'd be like, oh, it's Geoff again.
Well, it just looks like he's got a really good agent.
Yeah, definitely.
I think there's obviously the law of diminishing returns with this. It gets to the point where he might as well just be a main character again. But what I will say is that I think eventually symbolically he will be defeated in some way.
I would hope so.
And she will see him, and she will know that that's the last time she'll ever see him, and she'll make a statement, or he will, and then we'll know that she's got over him. Honestly, that's the only reason I can see for why you would keep bringing him back.
She needs to chuck a bucket of water over him so he can fall and melt into the floor like the Wicked Witch of the West.
Oh, I was thinking, like out of that cartoon programme with Bob Hoskins. Who framed Roger Rabbit? Who was
he is Judge Doom. He will, and his eyes will pop out and everything.
That the poor little shoe.
The poor little shoe that you put in the dip, yeah.
That was so sad. That was the saddest death in movie history, that poor little shoe.
Anyway, that's that story. Sorry, I thought that was fairly dull as well, and considering that I like Yasmeen, I mean, it just goes to show. It's just because in the back of my head, it's like, oh, more money problem there, I don't care. Nina and Alia, was fine. It was, sadly, it wasn't in any way an A story of the week, and not a whole lot happened, but I kind of enjoyed that. I think Dev helped save the week in some way for me. Do you want to give a quick rundown of what's been going on with our lovely lesbians, as Mary put it?
Don't label them.
Don't label them, but you can label the films that they watch as a lesbian film.
I like the fact that Nina gave a really impassioned speech about how everyone over 30 loves labels apart from her, and then she's like, the next sentence she's like, anyway, so we're gay. And then also she's a vegetarian. Like, you got to admit that labels can be useful for some things. Like, instead of being like, yeah, I don't eat pork. Nope, not lamb either. Nope, don't eat chicken.
Yeah.
There must be a word for this. So on Wednesday, Nina comes over to walk Asher to school. That's a bit creepy.
Why?
Walking your girlfriend or boyfriend to school when you don't attend school. That's just wrong, isn't it?
There's not a huge age difference.
I know there isn't.
I know what you mean.
But yeah, just like that sentence made me cringe a little bit.
What was really cringy was Dev saying, so you want the sofa tonight so you can get a little bit jiggy.
Yes. Dev's offering them the empty house, and she says, I'm going to actually do an online spoken verse thing on women's identity and existence.
Sounds enthralling.
And they go to speed dial beforehand.
No, they're going to go to speed dial to have a nice dinner together. But they don't.
Ashley goes to the cafe after school and finds out that Mary knows that she is a lovely lesbian. And Dev says...
Dev just talks about the spoken verse thing, and Nina says, oh yeah, it's my favourite author, and Ash is like, oh, he's mine too.
Oh, I don't know what their name is, but I love them.
Yeah, I think she's getting a bit too intense for Nina.
Well, let's talk about Friday. Ash is getting a bit overwhelmed with Dev, who's obsessed with making her feel welcome about being gay, and he hatches this plan with Mary to create the most gay evening that they to He says
gay and vegetarian.
Yeah, he invites her over to tea.
Cauliflower Wellington.
She's making a cauliflower Wellington, which to me
gross.
Sounds like she's homophobic, and she's just internalising it, and she hasn't realised. Why would you make this for anybody that you liked?
It sounds horrible, doesn't it?
It sounds like the worst combination of food, because you're gonna be a
bit flatulent after that as well.
Everyone's farting. They've just eaten a rock hard, limp, damp cauliflower surrounded by wilting pastry. And this is not the height of vegetarian cuisine.
No, we all know that is veggie lasagna.
Well, what about a nice mac and cheese?
Yeah, nice.
With cauliflower. What about a nice cauliflower cheese? Even that would be better than a hot, steamy pile of undercooked cauliflower and raw pastry. So anyway, that's her idea.
He wants something that's quite highbrow.
Like
the film.
I actually looked up a cauliflower Wellington, and there were a few recipes, and at least one of the comments was cauliflower was a bit hard. But everybody seems to be quite okay with it, because I guess after a while you just accept, if you're going around someone's house and you're a vegetarian, you're going to be given things like cauliflower Wellingtons, and you just got to go, yummy. Oh, so they're like, yes, we must do something sophisticated and French and gay. So they decide to watch a French film called
Portrait de la jeune fille en feu.
Yes, A Portrait of a Woman on Fire, which I think came out a couple of years ago, and is about lesbians. I did look it up, but it's not an easy film to synopsize. But it's basically like an unrequited love thing, I think.
It seems like it had a sad ending because they were all in tears.
Yes.
Mary was in bits with it. Dev was.
I loved their socially distanced sobbing as well. They were like, Mary's by the door, Dev's by the TV, Nina's like going out to the garden. Ash is, for some reason, the only one allowed on the sofa.
I would have found it quite interesting if Dev had found the film a bit uncomfortable to watch, because he's saying about how cool he is with all this and everything. And he knows the woke thing to say,
right,
and the accepting thing to say. But I wonder if he'd have found the film a bit difficult to watch and goes, that's what my daughters do.
Oh, I don't know. I think that would be a bit nasty.
Maybe.
I don't think you would.
I can just picture a scene where all of them are watching the film and they've all got their different reactions to it.
I get you. Yeah,
I
don't think it would be a sympathetic way of portraying Dev, though. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, or maybe he would have just found it boring.
Yeah, that would
because
have been
honestly, I don't think that particular film would have been something that Dev would have enjoyed watching.
No, yeah, that would have been funny if he's like Nina and she's crying and Ash is just looking uncomfortable because she's watching this film with her dad. Mary's like crying and Dev's like looking at his watch like, how long is this? It's too much reading.
Yeah, I think Ardy had the right idea because he wasn't there to watch it, was he?
No thanks. So they've watched this film, and what was it? It was something really funny that Dev said.
I don't know.
Somebody said something, and then Dev just repeated one of the words that they said, like he didn't understand anything they just said. And then Asha went, I really hate it when people watch something and then they talk about it afterwards. So she's obviously not a fan of the podcast. Yeah, I think she was just trying to be cool and like she didn't want to talk about the fact that, because it's very confronting, isn't it? They haven't really said anything, but you would feel really confronted if you were watching this film because you're just embarked upon a relationship.
Exactly.
It's like...
It's no coincidence.
It's kind of like if... And it's also a really sad film about how lesbians have been oppressed, I think. It'd be like if you joined the army and everyone was like, let's watch Starship Troopers. Nina, I thought this was kind of sweet, and I also wonder what was going on here, really. I don't know if she's telling the truth, because she starts getting all hot and flustered and crying, and she gets overwhelmed as she goes outside, and they go in the ginnel, and she says, oh, it reminds me of when I used to watch films with my dad, and then they kind of like smile, and they almost kiss, but then Mary comes and goes, it's cauliflower Wellington time! And they're like, oh, quickly, we must go. I wondered here because of the way that Ash has been quite clingy. And then when they watched it, and I thought that Nina looked really uncomfortable, and I thought before she said anything to Asha that she might be feeling a bit like, oh God, this is serious.
Yeah, she does not want that.
With her dad and her like fake mum, aunt, whatever you want to call her, because she's not just a babysitter, is she? She's part of the family.
Nanny.
And yeah, and this girl who is trusting me with her very first foray into any kind of real relationship with somebody who respects her, and I don't know if I'm that into this.
No, she just wants to, hang around and chill and be cool and
I think
see what happens.
She's
take it slow and natural and Alia.
It might be.
Asha said before, because we had the scene in Victoria Gardens a few weeks ago where.
Asha's like, oh, I love you, and Nina's like, let's just.
Yeah, and Asha said, yeah, I'm cool at taking it slow, but.
Yeah.
I think she's getting a bit excited by this.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
But I know, I find it really interesting, and I wonder what will happen, and I can imagine Nina maybe like. I'm reading it in this way, it's not necessarily the way it should be read, but kind of feels like she's thinking, I'm in over my head here, I do not even know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm going to break her heart because I don't actually think that we're like going to get married and
Yeah.
You know?
And like this could ruin our friendship, which is actually quite nice for a year before.
Yeah. And also,
The
Ash
snog
is a
in the
decent
cafe.
kid, and she's had a hard time. And,
Yeah.
you know...
It's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah. And Nina's like, not that much older than her, but in a sense, she is much wiser, and she feels a bit more switched on, and she's more philosophical, and I think she's more in touch with her feelings, and she probably thinks more deeply about stuff than Asha has.
Mm. And it's not just Asha that's being intense, is it? It's Deb as well,
Yes.
who's like, he's going overboard at
Yeah.
showing just how accepting he is, and inviting her out for tea and everything. And she didn't sign up for this at all.
I don't know if that's really what's going on. I just thought it was very interesting that she said she was hot. Because I don't think if I was watching a thing going, oh, this reminds me of my dearly departed father, I'd be like...
Poor Richard.
I need to cool down.
Maybe she was just getting turned on by the hot, steamy lesbian French action. I don't know.
I thought it was really good acting. I thought it was an interesting choice for her to say that she was hot, because I don't think that very often people say that. But I do think that can be quite a reaction when you get overwhelmed. You do go like, well, I do anyway. Oh, I need to stand in the garden.
I hope that this story gets a bit more of an airing next week.
There's a lot of really interesting stuff that's going on in the show about does it mean in 2021 to be part of the LGBT plus spectrum, and again they're really keen on emphasizing that they don't want to be labelled as anything in particular, and it's like an old fuddy-duddy thing to do, which I thought was really interesting. Like, they're really doubling down on it, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
And I think they're trying to educate people, but also capture like that market of people who really are into that.
But they're not saying that, all people in the LGBT plus community don't want labels, because James will happily proclaim that he's gay to anyone that asks, won't he?
There's a spectrum of different beliefs about it, which is why it's kind of cool that they've brought this into it.
Yeah.
Because there certainly are people that feel that way about it.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we had did we have any Paul in this week? I can't remember.
Did we?
No, we did, because Paul in the next story, in the Ronnie storyline, gets invited to the casino, doesn't he? Along with Ed, and Ed is not particularly happy with this, because he's obviously had this gambling problem in the past, which I thought was quite interesting to bring up again.
No, hang on. Ed has,
yeah. Ronnie thinks that Iron Lady Aggie has got him right under her thumb, and then we have a nice little scene of Ed opening up to him and explaining everything that happened. They lost the house, Michael took the blame.
Because Ronnie's walked in here, and the last time he saw his brother and their family, they were living in a giant house with all the luxuries, and he had a big business, and now he's living in a terraced house in a little pokey place with all of his family plus the girlfriend crammed in here, and he's got this tiny little builder's yard, which Ronnie's like, this is a bit crap, isn't it? And he's like, so let's go to the casino, what's going on? And at this point, it's gone so far that Ed has to be like, look, I know none of this makes sense, but as soon as I tell you I'm a gambling addict, it suddenly all slots into place.
Yeah, he says, look, stop pressing Aggie's buttons, we've had problems.
And he says to Ronnie, no, you think that she's a bitch, but actually she's protected me.
Yeah.
And she could have left me at any point.
Yeah.
She's a saint. She just bitches all the time.
And that was about that, which is weird, really, because like last Friday, Ronnie comes in and is like, I quite like this character. And on Monday, I was like, yeah, I like Ronnie. I'm glad that he's here. I wonder what adventures they're going to get up to this week. It turns out nothing.
None.
And I don't know whether Ronnie's in it next week. It's just bizarre he was in it for literally an episode and a half or something, and then that's all we've seen of him. But
he's a very charismatic, cool guy.
He really is,
guy.
Yeah. I think I'm hoping that once he gets into having proper story territory, he's gonna hold my interest, because my interest is peaked at the moment.
So the final. Do you want to read this as I interrupted you a lot?
No, there's not much to say. Is that hallucinating? He's just hallucinating again, and he's with his cats and He didn't talk about seeing Aidan today, old Johnny, but his cellmate Kai, I wrote down his name, is being a bit mean to him and teasing him for acting a bit nutsy. So Gary,
You can't say that when someone's actually nuts.
Gary has a word with him and tells him about Aidan and everything, and leave off, please.
Don't be so mean.
We also
and it's like it's a well-known fact that in prison, if you ask somebody to not be mean, they will do it. Yeah.
Fair enough, mate. We also get to see, for the sake of the viewer, that Johnny is still not taking his pills because he's got it there when he's on the phone earlier on in the episode, and then at the very end he drops the pill on the floor, and Kai sees him, but pretends not to see it. So I don't know whether he's going to try and get Johnny's unused drugs off him or something.
This is what I was just about to say. I didn't know if he saw it and he was like, "Oh, well, I won't say anything because I don't care whether this guy is seeing things or not." It's actually quite funny for me to see him confused because he seems like a nasty guy. But yeah, Johnny's missing a trick if he's not selling these.
Yeah, he's just flushing them down the loo, isn't he?
Waste of drugs. Everybody knows.
And I thought he was supposed to be some big businessman.
Yes! If there's one thing you can sell in prison, it's drugs.
And this is how you know that
Doesn't
he's totally
even matter
lost it.
what they're for.
Right, so that was this week's Coronation Street then. We have gone through everything, and I stand by what I said at the beginning of this street talk, that it was, yet again, sadly, not the best week. I wasn't offended by Gail and Ted and Eileen's funeral. I just didn't think it was as funny as they wanted it to be. Simon's stuff was all right. The Nina and Asher stuff was all right.
There were some really funny, good scenes, but
there were some.
They were few and far between.
That's the thing. It
serves to highlight how bad the rest of it was.
Yeah. So I can't give it any more than 2 Princesses of the Dead out of 5. I think this week.
Mary said that Nina looked beautiful like a princess
of the dead.
Which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going for. And character of the week, I mean, it's a hard one. Probably Dev. Dev was the one that stood out to me.
Dev was great.
Dev was great. He didn't have a big role, but
You're calling him Dev from now on.
Everything that he did, I enjoyed.
Dev.
It didn't seem forced.
No. I'm going to give it 2 as well, because I thought it was a bit crap. Projectile Cockapoos.
Yeah, good one.
I don't know who my character of the week is. I think Dev deserves it, because I am really liking him, I think. He's struggling in his own way, isn't he? He's not really sure what he's doing. He certainly wouldn't be rolling out the red carpet for Asher's boyfriend or what's his face's Ardy's girlfriend. I don't think he'd be this nice. I think he's overcompensating because he's still a bit uncomfortable.
He's overcompensating a bit. I think he knows that his relationship with Asher has been somewhat strained over the past few years.
But also,
and
I
this
think
is his
he knows.
opportunity
He's
to
like,
make it up.
I know this is going to be tough for you.
Yeah.
I know that even now it's not that comfortable to be gay. But
he's not realising that some of the things that he's doing is making it more uncomfortable for her. So yeah, he's just doing the best he can.
There was a bit where they're in the house, I think, and he's like looking at Nina and Asher, and he's kind of like extending his arms, and he looks utterly delighted and thrilled. And I thought, oh, he's just glad they can't get pregnant. Like, he's like, on the one hand, yes, you will encounter many difficulties and hurdles as a lesbian couple, especially as a mixed race lesbian couple, but on the other hand, no unplanned pregnancies, which was the main thing I was worried about. Asher, if I'm going to be
adopted somebody, that's not going to happen, is it?
We went to the supermarket, we came back with this kid, just followed us.
So,
free kid.
Should we round it up there?
Yeah.
Oh, I hope next week's better. I really do.
Honestly, the thing is, right, whenever you watch a bad week or 2, you think it's going to get better and I'll be thrilled. But when you're watching a good week, you, like, sometimes you'll say even on the podcast, like, oh no, I hope they can keep this up. But you know they can't. It's just the way that it goes. And let's not also forget that some people watched these episodes probably and thought they were great.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they do. And so, sometimes like the good episodes come and surprise you.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're not expecting one to be good, and it catches you off guard. So maybe I'm not going to hope. I'm just going to see what happens.
Well, we have no choice.
Some people, I've seen some people saying, "Oh, I'm not surprised they went and had that 2 weeks off storyline conferencing, blah blah blah, because this was such a bad week and everything." But I don't think it was anything to do with that whatsoever. I don't know whether it just made me wonder whether the higher ups at Corrie look at a week like this and go, yeah, that wasn't so good, was it? Or do they think that every week is great? Because obviously, to believe the publicity department, it's their job to make every week sound as
they're not
as
the same
good as
people, are they?
No. It's their job to make it sound as good as the rest. But I wonder whether people.
Well, they're not
going
to be
"Oh,
like,
that's a bit
look,
naff."
I know it's not fun, but you got to watch this because you understand next week's.
But yeah, I think that the 2 weeks they've had off were purely for COVID-related reasons. I would say. I don't know anything.
I know that they've been working really, really hard, and everything's more difficult.
They have been working really hard, and maybe in a different circumstances, Ted's funeral might be at a church or something, and they've got some really strict rules that they're having to stick with. And yes, they've made the decision not to go with a digitally enhanced, lack of social distancing things that EastEnders are done and everything. I think everybody there is working really, really hard, but just because you work really, really hard at something, it doesn't mean it's going to hit all the right notes.
And that's the most depressing thing about life.
Yep. Should we move on?
Sometimes you can try really hard and still not do a very good job.
Should we move on to the next bit?
Yeah, I just want to... Yeah.
Oh, go on then.
I don't really know. Like... Sometimes comedy just doesn't work, and I it's a hard job and I wouldn't be able to do it. So I often think that when we sit here and pass judgment, it's easy to think that we could do better, but I genuinely don't think so.
I don't think I'd be able to do any better, but it's not our job, is it?
What is our job?
And like you said, there'll be people there that have been lapping it up and loving it. It just hasn't worked for me this
I'm really
week.
interested also to know what people think about psychics and... What was the other thing?
Drugs.
I think we all know what everybody thinks about the funeral scenes. I think most people didn't really like it, and some people said, I didn't think it was inappropriate, but I didn't think it was that funny or whatever. But I really want to know, what do people think about this psychic storyline? Because I am, as I'm talking about it, I'm speaking on this podcast, I am doing so in the knowledge that people are listening who have different sets of beliefs about this, as they are entitled to. And some people believe in psychics and some people don't. And there are ends of those spectrums where people are incredibly militant about what they think and think that everybody else who thinks something different is completely wrong. And I am being very diplomatic in what I'm saying, but I would invite people to let me know what they think if they have opinions strongly about it one way or the other, because I'm pretty sure there's quite a few people listening to this who are very sceptical. But I would be interested to hear from people who aren't, who think that this might be, who have beliefs in this, and whether they think this storyline feels like it's being written by somebody who is trying to make fun of them or not, Because sometimes you don't pick up on it.
Yeah.
But often on shows like this, they will make the psychic a fraudster.
Yeah.
Because I don't really know why, because I think that, they've had ghosts before and seances, so what's an odd psychic or two?
True.
Anyway, that's just
it.
I'm just interested.
Yeah.